then, I would like for you, until we get Tom on, I'd like for you to tell me, like, what does legacy mean to you? In one sentence, as a leader, what does legacy mean to you? And so I'm going to do the same exercise, and let's just see what people say as we get warmed up here. So for me, legacy. Oh, I love Cheryl. Mark on the world, a lasting impact. I like that, a lasting impact. Tradition. Maureen says tradition to everyone, lasting impact. Keep giving us some legacy, tech legacy. Your story long after you're gone, like that, Skip. That's good. Tech legacy, old like me. I like that. That's fun. Let's see. What else has everybody got to say? Let me scroll back through here. So legacy means remembrance of a life well spent, making a difference repeatedly in someone's life. I love that. Got some early ones. That's awesome. So give me something else here. We got a couple more that haven't responded. What else would you say about legacy? Just a couple more. Here we go. What you deposit and invest in the future of others. Donnie Tuttle, that is huge. So Scott, my producer's on, and he's trying to get Tom on. Donnie's on, and if you wanted to, real quickly, we could promote Donnie for a little chat here until we get Tom on. I just got a message from you. What's Tom's phone? Tom, what's your phone number?
Hmm.
214. Hang on just a
I
second.
don't know if I would do that
I'm not
publicly.
doing that. I'm not doing that. Hang on just a second.
Donnie, I'm gonna promote you. Well, we try to get Tom on,
Let's go.
if you don't
All
mind.
right. So welcome back. So Donnie,
Hey,
Donnie's a BFF of mine, and he is a co-host. He stands in frequently if I'm not able to make a call. But Donnie, let's talk about coaching and legacy for a moment, and then we'll keep you on as we get Tom on. But it's always great to see you, my friend, and I know you always have words of wisdom. So
I love it. Yeah,
you
good.
do, and
I,
so take us away.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, coaching and legacy. I think if we, Todd, as people, can find and call out greatness in others
Mhm.
and give them sometimes the thing that they don't have on their own. I think all of us almost need like the I wish I had a sword here, but it's almost like someone to come and knight you, right? And say, go forth and give you a mission. I see coaching and legacy deeply interwoven, and but I think that any legacy bringer, any legacy giver has to not be thinking about self. It's always thinking about others. It's a service oriented mentality.
Somebody told me early on that leadership isn't a position, it's a relationship. How does that settle with you?
I like it. I like it, and I was on with a leader earlier today. It's also it's the relationship of being side by side with someone, realizing that you don't control, you only influence, and influence happens best when you're shoulder to shoulder with someone. Now, we can cast vision, but if,
Yes.
if we're pushing or we're pulling, we're probably going to break something. I do love the relationship. Yes.
We saw something yesterday of a guy that was leading a group of people, and he was talking about leadership, and he asked for a volunteer from the audience, and the volunteer came up and got up front, and he positioned this guy in the middle. So you just picture maybe 50 people in the room, and he's doing an example, and all he does is he starts walking to the person, and then he puts his hands up, and immediately the person from the audience puts his hands up, and this guy just keeps pushing. And it wasn't even like, I'm going to push you, I'm going to put my hands up, it was just this guy naturally resisted, right? And I think your comment about walking side by side is huge. How does a leader manifest that? Because like if I guide you and I got my arm around you or we're walking side by side, I know that generationally for millennials and that they appreciate being led side by side. What is your take on that? On just the whole idea of the connection and relationship of side by side leadership?
I think it's It's not positional, it's an identity. And I think grappling with someone, like the idea that the problem is we get thrown into leadership and we think it's something we have to do to someone, lead
Yeah.
them. But the reality is we're doing it for someone and with someone. And if we can embrace the fact of shared, I don't know, shared vision, shared action, like the fact that we're sharing that even with our kids, our teens, the fact that we think we can tell someone what to do, when someone passes the age of 10, that's not a reality, and probably not even before that. But just like, I think seeing yourself as what kind of partner am I? And do I partner with someone as an encourager, as a provoker, as a teacher? How do I partner with people? It's a native thing. And when we can find that, just like the guy I was talking to earlier, you're not going to feel like you're forcing it or you're forcing someone else to do things. Because again, we break all kinds of things when we, when we use blunt force trauma. What do they say to the guy with a hammer? Everything looks like a nail.
Yeah. You got to hammer everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting. One of the great lessons. And so guys, put anything in chat about pushing and pulling, and maybe some of the things that you have figured out on how to attract people to follow you. Because I think early on, one of the things that I learned is it is not positional. There is no real quote authority in leadership. You don't use authority, which can be translated as my way or the highway, and that may be simple for people to relate to, but it was like people will follow you for two reasons. One is because they have to and they have obligation, and there's a chain of command, which is
Hmm.
not ideal. Although
It works. Yeah.
organizational charts work all the time, sometimes better than others. But the real reason you want legacy is people follow you because what you have done for them and what you are doing for them. And so I think that as we look at followership and yes, he is here. But as we look at followership, we look at legacy, and people are going to talk about you. That's what legacy is. They're going to talk about what you did for them in their life. So look at this. I got to take a picture of this.
Oh, I'm doing it because like I'm on with like a couple of heroes. Like, hey, can you believe it? I'm in the big time. I made on the same screen with Tom Ziglar and of course the Todd father himself. So
Well, Donnie, it's always great to see you. And Tom, say hi to Donnie, fellow instructor, really great coach. I'm glad you guys get to make the connection. And Donnie, thank you for that spontaneous fill-in. It was
much
beautiful.
anytime. See you guys.
All right. Tom, how are you, brother?
Well, I'm gooder. So my
Gooder.
main email wasn't working with your system. So
Oh my
God
gosh.
said,
My
try
gosh.
try another email. So I did. So here we are.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask everybody in chat, are you familiar with the name Zig Ziglar? And just give us a why if you are. Just get active in chat. Let's let Tom know as we start this legacy conversation. Yes, yes, yes. Keep going, keep going. Fill it up, fill it up, fill it up. Yes, yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, my entire life, Tom Ziglar. I'm going to put yes in a very, very big way. He changed my life. And yeah, so, what a beautiful moment in time, Tom, to see the son of the great Zig Ziglar, who, impacted hundreds of millions of people in his lifetime around the world, including me, including you as a son. And to watch you carry on the legacy of your father and skilling that legacy up even more for the continuance of not only the impact he made, but the impact you're making now, carrying that legacy. Give us an idea of just being Zig Ziglar's son. What was that like, and what has gotten you to where you are today? Tell us what you're most excited about, and then let's get into it. I am so honored that you're here, brother.
You bet. Well, Todd, what a blessing to be here. Probably my greatest joy in life is being able to carry on Dad's legacy, and to whenever I go somewhere in the world and speak, it's like I'm in a room of family and friends, because they either heard Dad live at one point in their life, or they're listening to well, back in the day, it was audio cassettes,
Yes.
or CDs, or now it's downloads, and read the books, millions of books sold And my short answer is, as good as Dad was on stage, he was even better off stage.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just amazing. He was a little surprising to some. Is he's an introvert, especially at home. He was very quiet, uh, and but he was always family first, always working towards something, always moving, uh, always had exactly the right thing to say. Just amazing. And probably the thing that summed it all up the best is when Dad passed away, we had on our Facebook page, we had over 12,000 comments when we
Mm,
made the announcement. And these aren't just, RIP
yeah.
messages. These are like, hey, I heard your dad or I heard Zig in, and they told their little story. But Todd, the scarlet thread was, this is what they said. I heard Zig Ziglar speak. It was unbelievable. I waited in line for 2 hours. And when I spoke to him, even though it was for only 1 minute, it was like I was the only person in the room.
Mm,
And that was Dad's greatest gift, because they wanted to believe so much of what he said on the stage, but what he said to them one on one, and the intensity and his presence validated it.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I tell so many speakers, so many people have the privilege of being in front of a room. None of us can be Zig Ziglar on stage, but we can all be Zig Ziglar one on one, right? Because we got our own style, our own gifts, and that's what we need to go with on stage. But one on one, you just give somebody your undivided full attention, and that's honoring the legacy.
Yeah, I have a personal story, and I think it will transform the way that all of you, whether you're on YouTube and live streaming right now or on our platform, the idea of legacy, and the idea of the ripple effect. And I think this is really what leadership is about. I remember in 1989, I went to my first National Speakers Association, and what they did in their events each year is they always had a church service on Sunday, and I went to the Sunday church service, and there was about 700 people in the room. And it was really the first time that I had heard Zig speak, and I hadn't really understood what my transition to be a speaker from being a great salesperson was going to be. And I waited after the service, and I sat there and I watched, I don't know, 100 people in line talk to Zig, and waited for about an hour, and pretty soon it was just he and I in this auditorium room. And he walked back to me and he turned a chair around and sat down. And he said, "You're the last guy here besides me, and I just want to say hi. My name is Zig Ziglar." It was just like, and we sat down, and here's, whew, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about the demonstration that I had from your father of legacy. And for 45 minutes, he coached me. He could spend any amount of time, 45 minutes, doing anything else. And for some reason, he sat down with me. And I have to tell you that I look back on my moment with Zig that turned into a lifetime of friendship with Zig, endorsing my books and having calls with me, meeting you as a young kid, coming to Zig's service, seeing you, with your glasses on, and kind of, here we are with, I don't know how many people were in that room, but I mean, there were so many other speakers whose lives he had impacted and changed. And I sit here with goosebumps knowing that, here I am 30 years later with millions of people that I've gotten to impact because somebody who's impacted hundreds of millions of people impacted me. And that's legacy, right? It's taking the time. And so I'm honored that you're here, and you've got this beautiful torch that you're carrying. You also have a beautiful book on the 10 leadership virtues for disruptive times. It's a phenomenal book, and if you haven't listened to or read Tom's book, he is carrying on the torch exactly how his dad did, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book to read. We're talking about legacy today, and so what's on your heart to share with everybody that's listening to us live? And if you have questions for Tom, throw them in the chat and we'll answer them as we go. But what's on your heart as you think about this idea of fueling your legacy?
Yeah, legacy. One of the sayings that I like is, "You're gonna leave a legacy." The difference is it going to be by design or by chance?
Hmm.
I mean, we're all going to leave a legacy. And so the first thing about legacy to me is it's intentional. We need to be intentional with the legacy that we leave. And what's interesting is I remember, Todd, I'd started working at the company. I was probably like 28 or 30. And, dad always got up with the opportunity clock. He didn't have alarm clock. He had the opportunity clock. But quite honestly, most days when he woke up, that thing didn't go off. He just woke up. And that's because he was waking up to live his dream. His greatest dreams were while he was awake. And so he would get up and he was an early riser. He'd get up
Yeah.
4:30 or 5. And so here I am early in my career and I'm stepping up into leadership. And I get to the office and dad worked at home most of the time. And he was writing and doing the stuff. And so I get to the office, I get in, I get all situated, I'm starting to work, and it's like 7:15, 7:20 in the morning, and we don't start till 8. So I call up dad, right? So the son is sending the dad a signal. Look, dad, I'm at the office early. And I'm like, dad, how's your day going? And he's like, son, unbelievable. I've already written 3 hours in my new book. And for my life,
Boom.
I could never understand how anybody ever would want to get up that early in life. And now I get up every day at 4:30. Uh, and so what it was dad was talk about intentionality. He wanted me to copy what he was doing, right? And so what are we doing? What are the and so one of the things I like to think about is what are the habits that we create in our life that's what we really want to transfer. If we're talking about transferring legacy to somebody else, it's not the words they say. One of after dad passed away, he'd been gone about a year. He came to me and he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing okay." He goes, "Well, really, how are you doing?" And I said, "Well, this is kind of heavy." Meaning the legacy, right? And he said two things. He said, "Well, first off, he said, uh, your dad, his legacy is complete. He's done all he can do, and then he said this. He said, your dad, he walked his talk, and he was a pretty good talker."
That is very true.
And then he said, "And the legacy that you need to focus on now is your own."
Hmm. Hmm.
So that I think for people that's a hard one because we carry this burden of trying to live up to somebody else's expectations or legacy and it could be for all the right reasons, but the reality is we got to take ownership of our own legacy. We've got
Yeah.
to be intentional about what we leave behind. And dad did that. And growing up, it was so interesting. He never said to me or my sisters, "Hey, I want you to be in." Well, actually, he did say this tongue in cheek. He said, "I don't care what you do as long as it's sales." Okay. So I was, I was a born salesman. And so I had this right viewpoint of what selling is. Selling is serving and love and all that. But when it got serious, he'd say, "Son, whatever you do, as long as you do it with complete integrity and 100% effort, I'll stand behind you." And so that opens the door. Okay. And so when we're building a legacy and we're rooting our people on, whether it's in our business and we're rooting people on, if it's our family and we're rooting people on, that's what we're really supporting is that they do it with complete integrity and they go all in. Whatever it is, whatever their thing is, they go all in. And then we celebrate them as they go. And so that was the freedom that I had. And so I think of the intentional habits that I want to create and demonstrate in my life that I want the people around me to pick up. So that to me is like the first step. What are those habits that we can create that others can see, not just hear, but see and say, you know what, I think I'm going to try some of that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I get hit a couple different ways. First of all, with the emotion that we all feel when we know a parent has made an impact in our life. And I think about my father. I was flunking out of college. I was going to be a doctor, and my grades were horrible. And I remember a driveway conversation I had with my dad where he said, "Listen, I love you, and you're going to be a horrible doctor. And it's not your skill set. You shouldn't be one just because I am one." And I go, "Dad, what should I do?" And he goes, "You're great with people. You're great at influence. You should go to business school." And that moment in that driveway with my dad just sharing that with me changed everything in my life. And here I am today looking back on that. And I give my father credit for being bold enough and loving enough to say what he did. And he was a humorist, and he said it with a laugh. But he gave me permission to realize I really hated pre-med. I hated it. And so when I got into the thing that I was wired to do and that I was good at doing, and I understood that, and then I meet people like your father, and then I meet people like you, and I realized that if Zig had not called me when I had asked him to endorse my first book, I would have been really regretful of some of the things that I was saying in the book. And I had been a first-time author, and I remember getting to my home in McCall, Idaho, and having a conversation. Mobile phones weren't even around yet, and your dad saying, "There's three parts to your book I want you to reconsider." And he said, "Your legacy is really important right now, and what you say in a book is going to last a lifetime, and I just want you to be careful." And he had that kind of boldness. And if I had not had that conversation with him, I would have written a book that still would have been a great book, but I probably would have been regretting, a couple different angles I was taking. And as we built our relationship together, that was Zig. He protected my legacy by being bold and courageous and leading me. And I think that that's what, besides his love and his laugh, and besides how much he loved your mom, that to me is a moment. And then the other thing, just on habits, I asked Zig because I was impressed, man. I was really impressed. One of my favorite lines from Zig is he's on stage and he's saying, "Me and the redhead are getting ready to celebrate our 40th year." Now, we've been married 27 years, but I've heard so much about the 40th year anniversary. We want to start celebrating now. I'll never forget that line as long as I live. And then when I hired him to speak, he had the pump on stage, right? And the pump was something that he would do all the time. And he would talk about prospecting and daily habits. And, you just keep the pump going, and the water's going to come out. But if you stop pumping, it's. And so when I asked him, I go, "How do you write a book? How do you write a book?" And his line was like, I mean, getting chills just thinking about it. And he goes, "One page at a time." One page at a time. And he goes, "If you write one page a day at the end of the year, you're going to have a 365-page book." So your dad, I mean, just the stuff that I have a Zig Ziglar folder with letters from him and cards from him. And it's amazing to have you on, Tom.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Uh, the
Awesome.
pumper was Renee, the pumper was such a powerful visual. It is as if I can see it today. And Renee is one of our instructors, just a powerful guy from Haiti that decided poverty is not for him and came to America. And here he is.
You know,
So what's next then, as you think about you carrying the torch and simultaneously realizing that you're leaving your own legacy, and you're now doing the trade that your father perfected, and you are so good at it, and generationally it's so powerful to watch. What else is on your heart that you think really is something that you're feeling just this gravitational commitment to as Tom Ziglar, because you are all over. You've got your dad and you got all that. That's great. And now you're Tom, and you're doing the same thing in different and unique ways, and even in many cases better ways with the technology that's coming along and everything. But give us some more meat on this Tom Ziglar bone.
yeah. So here's a kind of segue into that. When Dad was still alive, he told me, and he told my sisters the same thing. He said, "You will never know true freedom until I'm gone."
What?
Yeah.
You
And
will never know true freedom until I'm gone.
and let me talk about the wisdom of that. I didn't understand it really. I'm like, no way. This is what we're doing is the most unbelievable thing. But he also knew that we were subverting our own gifts and talents to support him. I mean, there's only been one Zig Ziglar. He's a force of nature, unbelievable. All of his books and speeches, and when you get to speak in front of 82,000 people and do the things that he did, it's like crazy. Um, but he knew that we were doing everything to help his business, his brand, everything go because Dad's message is one of a kind. He could get on the stage and literally speak into the heart of everybody in the room, no matter where they were coming from. And he had this charisma and style and just the package.
Yeah.
And he could be so real with you 1 minute later, like, "Hey, man, let's do this." And so after he passed away, what I realized he meant was is that we, the freedom meant that we would each have to identify our own gifts and talents because I'm an we spent some time. I'm kind of a nerd. I've got a different sense of humor, and so for me to mask and try to be Zig Ziglar, it's just not going to work, right? There is just no way. And so as I've stepped into that, as I've said, okay, here's the awareness, the inventory of how I like to roll, how I like to do a presentation, how I like to package things. Well, that freedom says that, well, if I keep trying to do it the way we've done it, it's just going to die a slow, painful death, right? Because that's not the way it is. So what I'm excited about and what I've been really geared towards when you said, "Hey, do you want to talk on legacy?" I'm like, I've been thinking legacy for 20 years. But for me, what I'm most excited about is taking these timeless principles, the wisdom, the philosophy, everything that we've ever done, and putting it into different programs where then we can equip speakers, trainers, and coaches to go out and carry forward this message, right? That's what I love to do. So as you know, I'm sold out on coaching. I think the most powerful skill set anybody can learn is the coaching skill set. It's communication on steroids. I mean, it's a whole different level. It's got all these different things, and so that's what I'm excited about. So our leadership program is really, in essence, is we coach leaders how to coach their people, and
Yeah.
and we took Dad's Seat the Top book, and we took my Choose to Win book, and we turned those into coaching programs, and so we're coaching coaches, life coaches generally, how to go out and coach their people. So we got leadership coaches and life coaches. And ultimately, if you were like to say, well, what is personal development? At the end of the day, it's really how do I coach myself? And so that's what I believe in. That's what I'm sold out. And every stage I get on, it's like my goal there is to convince you to become a coach, whether
Mm.
you're paid for it, whether it's just for you to look in the mirror and coach that dude, or if you're inside of a business and you're growing your people. Dad had such a wonderful quote. He said, "You don't build a business, you build people, and people build the business." And when you understand how to coach, you're finding out what it is that they want, why they want it, and then helping them to you co-create a plan with them to get it, right? And
Yeah.
that there is nothing more satisfying than that. And then we have all these opportunities that come along because of the name and all the people have been impacted along the way. And so it's just a blessing. But
Of-
that's kind of the segue. So I'm the why behind the why. Like I want to know why something works. Uh,
Yeah.
and I can go deep and nerd out on that. But then my dream is thousands of coaches taking this philosophy to their own market in their own way, and the Ziglar thing living, the Ziglar brand and legacy living on through that.
I love this. That we have a couple questions that got posted. Amy wanted to know, and I think maybe you danced on it a little bit, but what was your biggest challenge being the son of Zig Ziglar, if you can recall that? And you may have talked a little bit about some of the transition stuff and your own legacy, but what would come to mind that could be something that you could share with other leaders?
A big one was this. It was around a lie that I had told to myself.
Mm.
And so this is like 16, 17 years ago. I had been getting speaking requests. I was always the back of the room guy. I was always putting other speakers on stage. I mean, the Ziglar brand. I mean, we would have openings for sales positions, and they were just speaker wannabes in disguise, right? I mean, that's everybody was flocking to us. I want to learn how to speak, but I was never that guy. I never wanted to speak, didn't want to, and I started getting invited. So I finally said yes, and the speech went great, but man, my stomach was in knots. It was terrible. All the stage stuff that people deal with. Then unfortunately, I got invited to do another one off of that one, and I went to that one, and it was like, oh, the speech was great, the feedback was great, but my whole and so I did what every reasonably intelligent human being would do is I went home and I sat myself in the corner and I said, Tom, what is the deal? What's going on? And I realized I'd lied to myself. And the lie was I'd been telling myself that people wanted me to be like my dad.
Mm,
And I'd misinterpreted it. What they wanted was for me to have the same principles and values and beliefs. What they wanted was for me to show up prepared. But what I thought they wanted was for me to be his style, his personality.
yeah.
And wow, when I realized that, no, wait a second, God made me this way. Uh, is it an excuse not to be prepared? No, that's not an excuse. You got to go all in. You got to be prepared. But you got to go with what you got. And then as soon as that happened, that changed everything. So uh, that was a big turning point for me. Was really embracing who I am, but not settling for, just winging it, right? That's not what we do as professionals. We go in and we
Yeah.
understand. But that was a big one for me.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, because there's a parallel here to Cheryl's question. And again, I think we've probably answered a piece of it, but there's another derivative of this. So, her question was wondering if anytime in your younger years you wanted to do something different. You've kind of addressed what was your gift and where you wanted to go. But the interesting question is neither of my kids want to do what I do or what my husband does for a living. And then it's an LOL. But isn't leadership about helping the people that you lead finding their best lane? And whether that means in your company or even maybe something else later, isn't that what leadership is? Putting people in their lane of giftedness. The thing that a gift, I define a gift is the thing that you are the best at, that you don't have to work very hard at being great at because it's a God-given skill and it's yours. It's the piece of the God miracle that's in you. And for me, I find it effortless to be on stage and speaking to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I think my biggest audience live was 22,000 people. And people go, "Weren't you afraid?" And I go, "No, I was excited." But that's me. And there's people on this call that public speaking is like at the very top of their fear list, right? We all have gifts, is what I guess I'm saying. Isn't that what leadership is? Finding the gift, amplifying the gift, and letting that gift take somebody to their own point of legacy. Yeah.
That's a huge part of leadership. And when I say leadership, I almost always use the two words coach leadership,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't want to say, oh, that's obvious. You should be doing this. I want to lead them into that by asking them the questions, by asking them the coaching questions. And so identifying that. So, what does success look like to you? And why is that important? Well, those are two pretty deep questions that you usually don't get resolved in one 15-minute conversation,
Right.
right? And you start finding clues around that. And the more you dig into it, and the reason those two are so important is if you have a gift or a talent that really gives you passion about it and you want to go into it, before it really becomes something that solves problems for the rest of the world, you got to do the work. You got to climb the mountains and overcome the barriers and the obstacles and do the learning and go through the dip and all the things that we know. And so if the why isn't big enough, then it's never gonna, reveal yourself. And then it's usually on the other side of that when it really gets fun. Uh, it's I was a month or two ago, I was on and there was 3,000 people in the room and I'm doing a live demo of an app. And so now we've got all the gremlins in the world, and I'm taking questions from this room. And it's just like my sweet spot. I could care less if the computer works. I could compare less if the mic goes out. It's like the funnest thing in the world. And I see people turn white as soon as there's a glitch in something. And it's just funny to me. But it's the like you, it's the environment that I love. But you get that way because you've prepared so much that it doesn't matter. And you've been in the situation where you're doing something and something happens in the event and the whole thing changes based on that one thing, but it's what that room needs. So
Yeah,
it's a big
yeah.
lesson.
No,
Dad showed up for the people in the room.
that was it. That was it. That was 100% his laser focus.
Here's at the end of his speaking career. So when he turned 80, he had a fall and he had a brain injury. He lost his short-term memory. And so my sister Julie traveled with him, and they did over 100 presentations together over the next 3.5 years.
Oh,
And so, did you ever see him in
I
that
did
situation?
not. I did not.
So Julie was interviewing him not because he just couldn't remember what he just said. His short-term memory was gone, so she would keep him on track. So he was speaking up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and it was one of the big giant ones, right? So they had Uh, back then, it was like Barbara Bush and Rudy Giuliani, and they had probably had Brett Favre there, and they had all the people.
Big names, yeah.
And Dad spoke in the interview, and Colin Powell was there, and we had a psychologist friend in the room, and about 15,000 people, and we said, "Would you really watch today and gauge the audience?" Perspective and reaction because we were putting at that point we're putting dad in a place to win, but we're also very protective. We don't want him to come across wrong.
Right.
And if your memory is slipping, well, that's a delicate balance. And when we got done, this psychologist comes to us and said, there were 12 world-class speakers here today. There were 12 world-class presentations. But there was only one person in the room who was here because they loved everybody else in the room. You have nothing to worry about.
Wow. Wow.
So it's
That was his heart. Man, oh man, that was his heart.
that was his heart. And and Todd, I've got to tell you, there were times when Dad would say the same story 2 or 3 times in that 25-minute thing.
Mm, mm.
And I would hear that sometimes and I'd be like, oh no. And then the next day, we would get a letter or an email. One time, we even had a guy come to our office the next day, and he said, your dad was talking about his relationship with the redhead, and he said, you've got to do this, and he told the story 3 times. He said, I left the room in the middle of it, called my wife, and we're going into counseling. So I believe that because Dad's heart was the way it was, God was just downloading him what he needed to say for somebody in that room. And we got not dozens, hundreds of letters like that over the 3 years.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to call an audible real quick. Hey, Scott, can you bring Renee Godefroy in real quick? And just I want Renee to ask his question of Tom. Renee's a fellow instructor, and if we can have Renee come in, if Renee accepts, that would be great. I love the fact that your dad mastered presence. When I hired him, we got in the room behind the stage and he looked me in the eyes. I had a couple of my guys that were with me and he said, I just want you to know that it is a gift to me to be able to love the 1,000 people that are in this room right now. And so Renee can't come on, so that's fine. And I saw that heart, right? And I knew that right then and there. And I watched him pour out every ounce of energy for an hour and 10 minutes. And it was all about loving that group. And so Renee wanted to ask you when you saw your dad in that state, and then you saw this person from the audience leave and take action on the redhead story. What did that do for you? I mean, how did that make you feel, is Renee's question to you?
Yeah, so there were, and I'll tell another story on the heels of it because it's the natural human emotion, and then the joy, right? And because faith and belief don't always show up at the same time.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, he would go on stage and we'd be praying, let this be smooth and everything else. And, then he would, then some of them would go like really smooth and really good. And then others would be a little bit from our perspective. Now, the thing is the room, if you forget to tell a story in your talk, nobody knows, right? Unless you tell them, oh, I left out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're harder on ourselves as presenters a lot of times. Uh, and then I'd be like, oh, I wonder how that went over. And then we would get that story, and we would get that story, and we would get that story. So I got to the point where I would just say, I wonder what God's going to do with this one.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. And we just prayed at that point in his career that we would have the clarity on, hey, when is it not good for him to go? The truth is it put life in his years and gave him more years because he
Yes.
loved people. Uh,
Yes.
and one of the letters we got was from a trainer. She loved training and she'd quit because she had epilepsy. She'd gotten epilepsy and she was having a seizure every now and then, and she didn't know when she would have the seizure. So she got afraid to get on stage or to go into a company and do training for them. And she wrote and she said, hey, I'm just doing the deal. And I hand him a letter when I walk in, and it says, if I hit the floor, all it means is I'm going to be out for about 5 minutes. No big deal. And she said, I'm living my life. Right. So how much
Yes.
testimony is that
Right.
somebody, we call it doing it anyway, uh,
Right.
doing it anyway. And then I remember picking my dad up. I would go to where he and mom were at the Legacy, which was their retirement community. This was after he'd fallen. I'd pick him up, take him to the office. We had devotions at 7:30 in the morning. So I'd pick him up at 7. We'd go in, and I'm leaving the Legacy. Think about this. His retirement community is called the Legacy. Okay. So and he gets in the car and we're driving out and the sun is bright, the sun is coming up, it's kind of fall, and it's the sun's coming up, and I look over at dad and I'm angry. I'm just mad at God. And I'm like, how can this be going on? Is there anybody, I don't know anybody who's impacted more lives, given more, done more, and yet he's got Alzheimer's.
Hmm.
What is going on?
Yeah.
And just in the middle of me thinking that thought, I look over and dad gets this big grin on his face. And when he get excited in the car, he'd start slapping the dashboard. And it wasn't out of anger, it was excitement. And he started slapping. He says, son, can you even imagine a little boy from Yazoo City having the life that I've had?
Hmm.
And he goes down the gratitude list
Wow. Wow.
of his family, mom, the business, the places he's been able to travel, the things that and he's like just grinning. It's like he's the kid in the candy store. And that just really,
Hmm.
that hit it because his whole life was preparing for the end of life, right?
Yeah.
He had practiced gratitude every day because he had had the hard side.
Yeah.
He had lost his dad when he was 5. He had uh, struggled immensely and had a ton of failures along the way. Before I was born, when my sisters, they lived in 17 different cities in 14 different years. I mean, that's a lot of moving before you figure it out, right? Because that's a lot. And then he has this unbelievable from really around 42 or so into the last half of his life, just impact, not without hardship and grief and loss, but
Yeah.
just gratitude. And so it just reminded me. Um, So how did dad show up in that moment? It was the previous 40 years waking up with gratitude and writing that list and being intentional. So that's the legacy. I mean, that's what it is.
I I remember that, and my wife and I have this kind of code that whenever life feels a little bit hard or a little bit stressful or a little bit uncertain, wherever we are in the world, whether in a car, in a hotel, in our home, at the beach, whatever, we do this. And all that is tell me three things you're grateful for right now. And I had a business call yesterday. It was a hard call. And I decided at the front end of the call to ask, what are three things you're grateful for before we begin this call? And it changed the entire attitude of the call because it was a little bit of a conflict. And I just said, what are you grateful for right now? Your dad helped me understand power of gratitude. And having lost my mom and having Alzheimer's and dementia, I know that those years are brutal. They're very, very hard. We got about 10 minutes left, and there is so much that I want to say, but I think there's two, besides his life quote, you get everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. There was two quotes that changed my life beyond that one. One was as a business person, and I give this to you guys as a leader. I remember Zig saying that prospecting is like taking a bath. You have to do it every day, or pretty soon you stink. And I think about the world of sales leadership. I think about the world, Tom, of coaching, and I think about the world of what happens if we move from inconsistency to consistency. That was number one. And the other quote beyond the get everything you want in life quote was success is where preparation meets opportunity. Those two quotes helped me become the number one salesperson in my company and the top 1% in America. And it's helped me, I believe, to understand business development and business growth and whatnot. Talk a little bit about how legacy and consistency, because I believe millions and millions of people around the world have been impacted by those two quotes from your father because I wove it into my training and I wove it into my experience before I even started the Duncan Group and before I started Fueled. And so just let's take 5 minutes on consistency. You talked about habits and behavior. Tell us a little bit about how consistency and legacy can be the greatest gift you offer people.
Yeah. So if you ever ask Zig Ziglar, uh, what are your top two reasons for success? And the first one was always character and integrity,
Mhm.
right? Your word is your bond. And of course, we don't need to go what integrity means and character and how that creates trust and it lays the foundation. And then he said, but my second key to success is PC. And PC stands for persistent consistency.
Mm.
And so the way that he defined it is consistency is when you have a worthy goal or objective or an ideal, you do it, you work on it every single day or as often as necessary. There is no skipping or waiting. It's just you just do it, right? You that's consistency. Persistency means that when you do it, you take it up a notch. You just do a little bit extra. You make one more call. You go the extra mile. Whatever it is. If you're working out, you walk one more minute. You go a little bit faster. You lift, you put an extra 2 pounds on the bar. Whatever it is, and you're constantly doing that. And so, for those of us trying to build a speaking career, like here's the lesson. I'm flying with dad and we're going out to LA and he's giving a talk and dad had this routine. So he would get on the plane, he had his folder with all of his stuff, he'd sit in the seat and he would sit down and he would take the folder and he'd put it right next to him in the seat, put his seatbelt on. He'd ask the flight attendant, we're usually up in first. He would ask the flight attendant, hey, my seatbelt's on, I'm going to take a nap. Don't wake me up. I don't need a drink. And dad would fall asleep. So we would literally get into that sleep and then or into that seat. And within 5 minutes, he's asleep. And then he didn't wake up until the wheels underneath the plane were rolling in, that
Yeah.
sound. And he'd wake up and he'd wipe his eyes and he'd put the tray table down, he'd bring that folder out and he'd start working. Well, I said, "What are you doing?" And I knew all this, okay? So I'm quizzing him, right? I knew it. He said, "Well, I'm working on my speech for tomorrow morning." And I go, "Well, Dad, you've given that speech what, 1,000, 2,000 times? Because if you heard him, pretty consistent." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "Son, there's always two reasons I do this. Number one, it'll be the first time many of the people in that room have ever heard me. It's got to be the best talk I've ever given. Number two, this audience is a little different, a little unique. I talked to the leadership of the company. I know what their theme is. I'm going to weave in some things and change some things around so that it is a speech uniquely for them."
Mm-hmm.
And so, what was the consistency? He prepared at least 3 hours for every talk he ever did, whether he'd given it one time or 1,000 times. So he never let up on that,
I love that.
right? And then the second is not only in the preparation, but he made it for that group. So he was taking it up a notch, right? So the consistency was doing it, the persistency was making the talk a little bit better. So the truth is that if you heard him speak over a year, he was always using the core 90 to 95%, and then he was weaving in 5% at any given point to see if it was better, because he was always trying to push out that bottom thing that wasn't resonating anymore and bring in the thing that was. Why? Because he was there to change lives.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
See, I think one of the hallmark ideas was our life is the sum total of consistency and doing the right thing. And Renee just put in here, I remember every time Zig took the stage at NSA, he always spoke about integrity and fidelity and, assuring that his wife never had to worry about him doing the wrong thing on the road, reminder that all men need to hear. And I remember Billy Graham talking about that too, that he would always have somebody travel with him. I remember something too that Zig did, and he did it very consistently at the front end of every speech, and he made everybody feel welcomed. And his line was, and you'll remember this, Tom. His line was, "Just as a matter of curiosity, how many of you have ever heard me speak before, or for you this is your first time?" And it was such a powerful question because you had to put your hand up. If I've heard you before, hand up. If this is my first time, hand up. And I always remembered how, even now, just here, I'm getting goosebumps again, just how inviting he was to come into this space and let's have a conversation. And so I got dozens of these things. I don't have the Southern drawl. I don't have that South kind of accent that he had, but these were life-changing moments. Anybody on this call that has been with your dad, anybody on this call that, for me, experiencing you in your own lane and being so excited about coaching and the brand that you guys have as a family and you playing the role that God has gifted you to play in this. It's really, really beautiful, Tom, to watch. And I just texted Alex a picture of you and me, and he said, "Tom is the greatest." And, I know that with your dad being the greatest, and now our feeling is that you are the greatest at what you're doing. To be in the studio with you 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and have that beautiful moment of laying down the coaching principles that you're so passionate about, really remarkable. We're gonna do some massive things around the world with the Ziglar brand, and it's exciting. So, what's the best way for people to learn more if they want to really be in coach leadership, and if they really understand the power of that? How do they get a hold of you? Can you put a link in the chat right now? Whatever you'd like to do. I want to encourage everybody on this call to do two things. Keep inviting people that you know that lead to the Fuel platform. Keep inviting them to hear our performance instructors every Wednesday share with you their heart on leadership and take action with their superpower. Tom's is coaching. And I can tell you right now, to be part and see what he's doing around coaching, even the course that will be up probably in the next 4 weeks on coaching, very, very powerful. And I remember a book by Don Shula and Ken Blanchard, Everybody Needs a Coach. And you're doing it at spades, brother. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you? There we go. Tom Ziglar at
Yeah.
Ziglar.com.
Ziglar at Ziglar.com. That is the easiest way. We're all part of this incredible family with Fuel. So just say, hey, I want to know more, and I'll just send you my calendar link, and we'll just have a call. We'll just have a talk. Happy to meet anybody. The leadership coaching has really kind of taken off in a way that I didn't really understand. And so coaching leaders, like as a leader, you're busy, you got to do all this stuff. And the world changed. We all saw it. COVID changed the world. I mean, the people's values, and the way you lead people is different. And most people, they lead the way they were led, and most people weren't led the right way.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just real simple. And so we have a very powerful process. And in the book 10 Leadership Virtues, we talk about mindset, the virtues of leadership, and then the coaching process that we teach. So I was telling Todd that the most fun was getting invited to Vietnam to speak to 400 leaders in Hanoi and 400 leaders in Ho Chi Minh. And so we're in a communist Buddhist country, and I was raised by maybe the greatest capital, capitalism speaker ever as far as enterprise. And the 10 leadership virtues are the words are changed, but they're the same virtues that you find in 1 Corinthians 13. And so it resonates all over the world, no matter what background you have, because it's written on our hearts.
Yes. Yes.
As leaders, or people say love your people, but they don't tell you how.
Right.
And so
Right.
what we do is we really show people how to love your people, but it's practical and process and tactical. So we combine both of those two things.
The
Yeah.
heart. There we go. There's the
Yeah.
hearts.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, and then there's other things that happy to talk to you about, but legacy and making sure that this message continues on. And my goal is to have it continue on in the hearts of people,
Yeah.
but also equipping them how to do the same thing, how to continue it on. So that's what
Beautiful, and we are excited to be by your side, helping you do that worldwide, and very exciting to have everybody on. Thank you. Chris Lean just said this is powerful. So awesome, you guys. Tom, thank you for being here. I know we had a little tech glitch at the front end, but I'm glad we got it solved. Donnie, thank you for chiming in and filling the void as we got Tom ready to go. Tom, solid time with you, and wish you nothing but the best as you impact the world with your gift. And I love that your legacy continues in its own unique way, because you've been gifted in ways that your dad wasn't. And we all need to take that message away that we all have a gift. And the joy of leadership is to amplify the gift in your people and help them have more fun on the job, produce more of an engagement around your company, and help them win. And born to win. I mean, if you really understand that, and you really understand that everybody's got a greatness quotient in them, the job of a leader is to pull that out. So, Tom, I know we'll talk soon, but many thanks to you for hanging out on Leadership Live. If you're here today, please send the link as you see these emails each week. We've got some great speakers lined up that are partners of ours, and we want to continue to help you become the best version of you as a leader you can be. Don't keep us a secret. And Tom, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Scott, for producing. Donnie, thanks for chiming in.